and it decreases as your income increases. That's across the world, except a little bit in India and a little bit in China, where the affluent are able to get some of these, richer foods and sugar. Next slide, please. We talked about the cost of society. The average diabetic runs $10,700 a year. The average relatively healthy person is $2,600. And sometimes people come. Our program is about $9,000 for a year input. It's like, people say, well, that seems like a lot of money. Well, it's not really when you realize you're spending that much per year, and this can save your life and give you 19 more years on your life. But people have to make choices, and that's what we're giving them. We now have an option. Next slide, please. About 82% of diabetics around the world are overweight. It goes up to almost 90%. Women leading a little bit more than men, but obesity is definitely connected to diabetes, but it's also a symptom of diabetes. Now, here's the point. Diabetes has no cure. It is progressive and fatal, New York Times. Diabetes is an incurable disease. It is an urgent health problem in the Latino community, American Diabetes Association. Diabetes is an incurable disease that affects the body's ability to produce and respond properly to insulin, American Diabetes Association. Now, you heard the word incurable. Okay, so it takes us 3 weeks. You got it? It takes us 3 weeks. It takes us between 3 and 4 days to get people off insulin, even if it's 70 units of insulin. So there's a world of difference between the culture of death, which doesn't have a clue how to heal it, and when we're talking about a vegan life with diet. And there has been research. Dr. Bernard has done research in a 22-week study, and they had some really decent results. This is the fast track. Now, why is the fast track important? It's not because we're in a hurry, but it's because people need to get results. And when they get results, guess what happens? They get motivated. That's the human nature. So in 3 weeks, if we can get your blood sugar down, and our average drop is about 167 points in 3 to 4 weeks of blood sugar, which is quite significant, as you can guess. You're running 100 or you're running about 80, and somewhere about 85 or below is good. 70 to 85. Now that is lower than the AD rates. They used to be 109, now they're 100. But the reason we pick 85, it's really 83, but 85 is what we say, is that that's when the pancreas stops having to produce insulin. So it can rest and regenerate itself. So our standards are actually stricter because we want complete results. Okay. So it's not exactly incurable. We'll just keep going. Now, what is the problem? Why is the obvious not happening? We've got to look at that real closely. Why is the obvious not happening? And this is the answer. When we're up here, and it is the culture of death versus the culture of life, and I won't list the whole thing, but basically, the essence of the culture of death is, dietary-wise, is junk food, high sweets, high animal products, trans fatty acids, low fiber. Then we go to low exercise. Then we go to high focus on pharmaceuticals. Okay? Because obviously, we're taking people off drugs. We're not putting them on drugs, right? Okay? And then competition, lack of connection with your own soul. So you're tending to eat to fill your soul because there's never enough food to feed a hungry soul. Think about that thing. There's never enough food to feed a hungry soul. So in the culture of life, we're talking, and this is the basic diet, and we'll go over it again. The culture of life we're talking about is a organic, extremely important, at least 80% live, vegan, no animal products whatsoever, including dairy. And you'll get an idea more of what that is in a moment. High mineral, low glycemic, low insulin index. Now why do we mention that? How many people know what insulin index is? Raise your hand. Not too much, because it's a newer concept. That's how much a particular food will raise your insulin secretion. So why that's important is a quarter pound of beef will raise your insulin index equal to a quarter pound of sugar. So we can say, well, you know, beef is low sugar, but that's not the point. The point is it's stressing your pancreas. And when you understand the physiology of type 2, as well as type 1, inflammation plays a big role. And when the pancreas is being pummeled by all this high insulin index food, what happens is it inflames and then ultimately exhausts or scars down. That's for type 1 and for type 2. Obviously, worse for type 1 because that's insulinitis, it's an inflammation. For type 2, that's where we go. And our program is designed very specifically to decrease the inflammation. And we'll get to the punchline of why it does that in a little bit further down the line. But you got the idea that the culture of life is eating this high quality food, and it needs to be designed to your constitution. Some people need more protein, some people need less protein. That's important. It should be made with love, because love goes into food. It does make a difference. Because all Dr. Emoto's work with water, how many people are familiar with that? Raise your hand. Okay. Well, guess what? If you don't cook your food, you have water in there. And when you're putting the prayer and love into it, it goes right into your food in the resonant energy of the water. So that's kind of why that's important. So that's the whole thing, okay? Organic, vegan, 100% vegan, 80% live, at least, high fiber, high minerals, low sugar. And actually, when we're first doing it, the first 3 weeks, no fruit. Because fruit actually converts, it's actually more a reactive protein, reactive sugar to protein than sucrose and glucose. So fruit is actually a problem. Okay, so kind of get that into your mind to understand that. And major constitution, low glycemic and low insulin index. So I kind of repeat it. And the culture of life is about cooperation. It's about connecting. Everybody here is part of the culture of life. Some of you may have a gargling at it. Some people are drinking deeply. Maybe that's this lecture. Less gargling, more drinking deeply. This is good. But we're about creating life on the planet. We're about organic farming. We're about cooperating. We're about an economics of cooperation and enhancement for all people, rather than the competition dominator consciousness that's in the culture of death. And that's why they're making money off all this. You got to understand why is it the Diabetic Association isn't really pushing this, or maybe they will, who knows, but we'll see. But they're funded by Cadbury's. They get $1 million from Cadbury's. So you can figure that out. You know what Cadbury's is? Candy bars, soft drinks, so the culture of death tends to buy out, you know, a lot of these things, so you can't really, you're compromised. That's what it is. The research is very clear that the main cause is sugar. Secondary, but highly important, is meat eating. It is called, there's a Dr. Cleve who did this research in pretty much many cultures around the world. And in 20 years after white sugar, white flour, refined carbohydrates are brought into a culture, they're not breaking diabetes. It's just, they call it the 20-year rule. 20-year rule. And then following that comes the meat and animal fat. And you combine those two together, you really have a problem. Next slide, please. Now, the culture of life, this is what it's about. This is Patagonia, where we are. Beauty, keep going. Love, this is Mike and I with our couple's relationship. We kind of play a little bit. Okay, next.